Los Angeles erupts in chaos. U.S. Marines and National Guard troops patrol the streets. Protesters clash with soldiers, and tensions soar as the nation's leadership faces an unprecedented standoff. In this unfolding drama of spring 2025, President Donald Trump and California Governor Gavin Newsom square off in a constitutional crisis that could reshape America's balance of power. What happens when a sitting president threatens to arrest the governor of the largest state? This is more than a political showdown. It's a high-stakes struggle that could echo through history, reminiscent of clashes like Little Rock in 1957 and Kent State in 1970. Stay tuned as we unpack the story and the legal framework behind it, exploring the critical question: who truly controls America's military force on home soil? The flashpoint of this crisis lies in President Trump's decision to deploy federal troops to Los Angeles to quell immigration protests. In response, Governor Gavin Newsom has accused the president of dictatorial overreach, igniting a legal and political battle. Newsom has mobilized California's National Guard to resist what he sees as an unconstitutional federal incursion. Trump, in turn, has cited the Insurrection Act of 1807, claiming the authority to override Newsom and deploy troops unilaterally. The courts are now being pulled into the fray, with lawsuits flying on both sides. The implications are enormous. This isn't just about a protest. It's a direct challenge to the balance of federal and state power, one that could redefine the limits of executive authority in the United States. The clash between federal and state authority isn't new. During the Little Rock crisis, in 1957, Arkansas Governor Orval Faubus used the National Guard to block the desegregation of Little Rock Central High School. President Dwight Eisenhower responded by federalizing the Guard and deploying the 101st Airborne Division to enforce desegregation, a landmark moment for civil rights and federal authority. In 1963, Alabama Governor George Wallace made headlines by symbolically standing in a schoolhouse door to block black students from enrolling at the University of Alabama. President John F. Kennedy federalized the Alabama National Guard to assert federal supremacy and enforce desegregation under the Insurrection Act. The Kent State shootings of 1970 highlighted the dangers of militarized responses to civil unrest. Ohio Governor Jim Rhodes deployed the National Guard to Kent State University during anti-war protests, resulting in the tragic deaths of 4 students. President Nixon distanced himself from the incident, but the tragedy underscored the volatility of such situations. The response to Hurricane Katrina in 2005 revealed further complexities. Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco resisted federalizing her state's National Guard, fearing a loss of control during the disaster. President George W. Bush sought a unified command to address the chaos, prompting reforms to clarify chains of command in disaster response. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 brought another layer of tension. Governors like Gavin Newsom deployed National Guard units for pandemic relief, while President Trump clashed with state leaders over federal authority. Although there were no direct confrontations, the situation exposed the tension between state and federal powers during crises. Border deployments between 2018 and 2024 added another dimension to the power struggle. Governors like Greg Abbott of Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida deployed their state guardsmen to the U.S.-Mexico border without federal approval, challenging both the Trump and Biden administrations. These actions sparked ongoing legal battles about the limits of state versus federal authority. The current conflict highlights 2 critical laws governing the use of the National Guard. The Insurrection Act of 1807 allows the president to deploy troops domestically, overriding governors under specific circumstances. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, on the other hand, restricts federal military involvement in domestic law enforcement unless explicitly authorized by Congress or the Insurrection Act. In most cases, the Constitution's Supremacy Clause favors presidential authority. However, governors maintain significant control over their National Guard units unless federalized, creating a delicate balance of power. Every past clash over the Guard has shifted the balance of power. Little Rock and Alabama cemented federal supremacy and civil rights. Katrina's chaos led to more federal control and disasters. The Kent State tragedy in 1970, when the Ohio Guard killed 4 students, left a deep scar, reminding the nation of the dangers of using troops against citizens. These events are not just history. They're the playbook for today's crisis. Trump's supporters cite Little Rock. Critics warn of Kent State. The current standoff is the sum of these lessons, pushing America to the edge of a new era in federalism. The Trump-Newsom standoff is more than a legal battle. It's a test of American democracy. If the courts side with the president, future leaders may deploy troops domestically with ease, overriding local will. If Newsom prevails, states may gain new power to resist federal intervention, but risk paralysis in true emergencies. The Guard's control is about more than law. It's about trust, rights, and the future of the republic. The same laws can protect liberty or threaten it, depending on who wields them. The outcome will be shaped not just by judges, but by the vigilance of the American people. Who controls the Guard is who shapes America's future. And that's a question we all must answer. This battle isn't just a California issue, it's a test of America's democratic foundations. What do you think about the balance of power between state and federal government? Should presidents have the authority to override governors in domestic disputes? Join the conversation by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Let's keep discussing the principles that shape our democracy and the lessons history has to offer. Remember, staying informed is the first step to making a difference. Thank you for watching. Catch you in the next one.